Hey, welcome to The Explainer. In a world that's just jam-packed with screens, a lot of parents are asking the same thing. How do we help our kids find some balance? So today, we're going to dig into how yoga can be a really powerful answer to that, kind of like an oasis in our crazy, tech-filled lives. Okay, let's kick things off with a scene that I'm betting is pretty familiar to a lot of parents out there. This quote just nails that daily battle over screen time, right? That moment of friction that really sets the stage for a very modern kind of challenge.
And that leads us right into our first big topic, the modern kid's dilemma. I mean, kids today are growing up in what the source material calls a tech-infested world, where there's always something digital pulling for their attention.
And this right here, this is the emotional reality of it, isn't it? It's not just about hitting the off button. It's about dealing with the sulky looks, the whiny protests that come after. And here's the thing. The whole point of yoga is to address that resistance from the inside out, not just to power through it.
So if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, the source suggests it's not about fighting technology head-on, but about creating an alternative, an oasis of calm.
And this is really where the power of yoga for kids comes in. It's not just about exercise. It's about carving out this special time and space for them to just look inward, a place where they can sort through their thoughts and let their imaginations go wild, all without a screen in sight.
All right, so when should you even start this? Turns out timing is a really big deal. The source material is super clear on this. There is a huge advantage to starting young.
In fact, it points to a specific sweet spot, right around 10 to 13 years old. See, at this age, they're old enough to get the instructions, but they're still open enough to really soak up the core ideas of the practice. And this really breaks down why the age is so perfect. When you're young, your body is, quote, super flexible. Poses feel easy, they're fun. Now, contrast that with trying to start in middle age. You're often dealing with aches and pains, you need to customize everything. It's just a completely different ballgame.
Okay, so it's not just about being flexible. Let's get into the other stuff, because the benefits go way beyond the physical. We're talking about a huge impact on a kid's school life and their mental well-being. And wow, the benefits are huge. We're talking better concentration for schoolwork, less stress around exams. It even helps calm hyperactivity, which is a real game changer for focus. It builds resilience, it's good for their lungs, the list goes on.
Okay, that all sounds amazing, right? But how? How does stretching on a mat actually calm a kid down on a biological level? What's going on in their body?
Well, it all comes down to our nervous system. Think of it like this. You've got two modes. First, there's the sympathetic system. That's your fight or flight response that gets you all revved up for stress. Then you've got the parasympathetic system. That's your rest and restore mode. The problem is, in our crazy world, that fight or flight switch can get stuck in the on position.
And this is where yoga works its magic. It gives kids the actual tools, especially breathing exercises, to manually flip the switch from fight or flight back to rest and restore. It teaches them how to actively bring their own bodies from a state of stress back to a place of calm. It's all about finding that balance.
All right, so we know why it's good for them. But let's be real. How do you actually get a kid on the mat in the first place? How do you make this whole thing fun and engaging?
Well, the key is you got to tailor your approach. What works for a 6-year-old is not going to work for a teenager. For the little ones, you make it a game. You weave the poses into fun stories about animals or shapes. For teens, the source says you can take it a bit more seriously and frame it as a real tool they can use for the rest of their lives. And here's what that might actually look like. A really simple flow, right? You start in mountain pose, move to downward dog, all the way to that final relaxation. You can turn this whole sequence into an adventure or a story, which makes it way more interactive and fun.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? The source material is incredibly direct about this. This isn't just another after-school activity. It's framed as one of the absolute best things a parent can do for their child's development.
And this quote right here just says it all. It's not a temporary fix for too much screen time. It's seen as a lasting gift of health, something they can carry with them for their entire lives.
And that leaves us with this final question to think about. In a world that is constantly pulling for our kids' attention, what tools can we actually give them? Not just to cope, but to really, truly thrive. What gift of health is the most valuable one you can give?